The mind is everything. What you think, you become. This timeless wisdom from the Buddha invites us to reflect on the profound impact our thoughts have on our lives. In this moment, as you listen to these words, take a deep breath, feel the stillness of the air around you, the quiet hum of the universe. Let it remind you that inner peace is not something that is found outside of us, but within the very core of our being. Welcome to this sacred space of reflection, where we explore the Buddhist path to a calm and peaceful life. In a world that often feels overwhelming and chaotic, we seek solace through the teachings of the Buddha. These teachings are not just ancient scriptures, but living wisdom that holds the power to transform our everyday lives. Today, we embark on a journey of understanding, a journey to embrace peace by letting go of control, detaching from our desires, practicing kindness, living in the present moment, cultivating gratitude, silencing the negative thoughts that cloud our minds, and accepting the impermanence of life. These are the Buddhist principles that guide us toward lasting peace. The first step on this journey is to understand why inner peace is essential in life. When we are at peace within ourselves, the external world seems less turbulent. Peace doesn't mean we're avoiding life's challenges. Instead, it means we are equipped to face them with calmness, understanding, and wisdom. As we delve deeper into the teachings, remember, this is not about becoming perfect. It is about gradually cultivating a mind that is peaceful and open to the wisdom of the universe. Part 1. Letting go of control. Have you ever tried to control everything in your life, only to feel like the more you grasp, the more it slips away? In the rush of our daily lives, we often believe that by controlling everything around us, our circumstances, people, or even our own thoughts, we can find peace. But in truth, this constant need for control is like holding tightly to a rope that is slowly unraveling. The Buddha taught us that life is inherently unpredictable. We cannot control everything, no matter how hard we try. When we attempt to control the uncontrollable, we invite suffering into our lives. It's like trying to force a river to flow in a different direction. The river will not bend to our will, but if we let it flow naturally, it will reach its destination with ease. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up on life or being passive. Instead, it's about accepting that there are things beyond our control, and learning to navigate those moments with peace. Imagine for a moment, if you will, that you are standing in front of a river. The current is swift, and the waters are constantly changing. If you try to swim against the current, you'll tire quickly and get swept away. But if you allow the current to carry you, you'll flow with the river, adapting to its rhythm. In Buddhism, letting go of control is closely tied to the concept of non-attachment. When we cling too tightly to outcomes or try to control the behavior of others, we create unnecessary suffering. The Buddha teaches that attachment to outcomes is a major cause of our anxiety and unhappiness. It's in our nature to desire things to be a certain way. But when we insist on these desires being fulfilled exactly as we envision them, we set ourselves up for disappointment. So, how can we practice letting go of control in our daily lives? The first step is mindfulness. We must observe our thoughts and notice when we are trying to control the uncontrollable. Recognize that life is not a rigid structure but a fluid experience, constantly changing and shifting. By letting go of the need for everything to stay the same, we can embrace the beauty of impermanence. Another practice that helps is acceptance. Instead of resisting what is happening, we learn to accept the present moment as it is. This doesn't mean we become passive or indifferent. It simply means that we acknowledge what is happening, without judgment, and respond with compassion and wisdom. When we stop resisting, we free ourselves from the inner struggle and make room for peace. Letting go of control also involves trusting the process of life. Trust that the universe, or whatever you believe guides you, has a way of leading us to where we need to be, even if it's not where we imagined. Trust is the foundation upon which true peace can be built. It is the trust that even when things are uncertain, we are exactly where we need to be. Imagine walking through a dense fog. You can't see beyond a few steps ahead, but you trust that each step will bring you closer to clarity. Similarly, when we let go of control, we trust that each moment will unfold as it is meant to, without forcing it into a particular shape. As we embrace the teachings of the Buddha, we begin to understand that peace comes not from controlling every aspect of life but from releasing the need to control. By accepting that some things are simply out of our hands, we can experience a deep sense of freedom and tranquility. So, let us take a moment now to reflect. In what areas of your life do you feel the need to control? What would it feel like to release that control, to trust the process, and to simply allow life to unfold as it will? Let this reflection guide you toward greater peace and clarity. Part 2. Detachment from desires. Have you ever noticed how the more we desire something, the more it seems to slip just out of our reach? We think, if I only had this one thing, my life would be complete. But no matter how much we chase after it, satisfaction remains elusive. This is the nature of desire. It is a never-ending chase that leads only to frustration. The Buddha recognized this deep truth when he said, "Desire is the root of all suffering." But what exactly did he mean by this? It's not the act of desiring itself that causes suffering, but the attachment to those desires. When we become fixated on a particular outcome or object, we bind ourselves to it. We may believe that once we get what we want, everything will be perfect. Yet, when we finally acquire it, we often find that our desires shift, and we begin longing for something else. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on this. Think of a time when you desired something intensely. Maybe it was a material object, a specific achievement, or even approval from others. Did obtaining that thing truly bring you lasting happiness? Or did the initial joy fade away, replaced by new desires or the fear of losing what you had gained? Desires are not inherently wrong or harmful. In fact, they are a part of our human experience. It's natural to want things, comfort, success, love, but when we become attached to these desires, believing that our happiness depends on them, we lose sight of the bigger picture. Attachment creates a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction, as our desires constantly change and evolve. Buddhism teaches us that true peace comes not from fulfilling our desires but from letting go of our attachment to them. This is what we call detachment. Detachment doesn't mean we stop wanting things or stop living with ambition. It means that we no longer define our happiness by whether or not our desires are fulfilled. We learn to enjoy the present moment, regardless of what we do or do not have. Think of a flower in bloom. It doesn't cling to its petals, nor does it stress about when it will wilt. It simply exists, fully embracing its moment of beauty without concern for the future. Similarly, when we practice detachment, we can experience the fullness of life without the constant tug of desire pulling us in different directions. So, how can we practice detachment in our own lives? One way is through mindfulness. By observing our desires without judgment, we can begin to see them for what they truly are, fleeting thoughts and emotions that come and go. When we recognize that desires are impermanent, we are less likely to identify with them and more likely to let them pass naturally. Another important practice is to cultivate contentment. Instead of always striving for more, we can take time to appreciate what we already have. This doesn't mean settling for less, but rather finding peace in the present moment. When we cultivate gratitude for what is already in our lives, we reduce the power of desire and open ourselves up to a deeper sense of fulfillment. Detachment also involves recognizing the difference between needs and wants. We often confuse the two, believing that our wants are essential to our well-being. In reality, our true needs are simple: food, shelter, love, and connection. Everything else is a desire, a passing wish that may or may not bring lasting happiness. By learning to detach from our desires, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. We become more peaceful, more present, and more able to appreciate the richness of life as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. Let's take a moment to reflect on our own desires. What are you attached to in your life? How does that attachment affect your peace of mind? Imagine letting go of the need to control or possess what you desire, and instead, simply allowing life to unfold without the pressure of getting what you think you need. This practice of detachment isn't about renouncing all desire or living without ambition. It's about finding balance, about learning to want without clinging, and about experiencing life without being defined by the pursuit of external goals. In this way, we can begin to find lasting peace and contentment, regardless of what the world offers us. Part 3. Practicing kindness. Imagine a world where every person you encounter greets you with a smile, where kindness flows as naturally as the air we breathe. It may seem like an impossible dream, but this is the world the Buddha envisioned when he taught us about compassion and loving kindness. Kindness is more than just a polite gesture or a simple, "thank you." It's an energy, a force that radiates from within us, reaching out to others in ways that can transform lives, both our own and those around us. The Buddha often spoke of metta, or loving kindness, as one of the most important qualities to cultivate on the path to enlightenment. He said, "May all beings be happy. May all beings be without disease. May all beings experience the sensation of auspiciousness. May nobody suffer in any way." These words are not just a prayer or wish, they are a call to action. Kindness is not something passive, it's something we actively create in our lives. But how do we practice kindness in a world that often seems harsh and unforgiving? First, we must understand that kindness begins with ourselves. We cannot extend kindness to others if we are not kind to ourselves. Self-compassion is the foundation upon which all other acts of kindness are built. When we are gentle with ourselves, when we accept our flaws and embrace our humanity, we are better equipped to extend that same grace to others. Think of a time when you've been hard on yourself, when you've criticized your every move or believed that you weren't good enough. In those moments, it can feel nearly impossible to show kindness to anyone else. But when we learn to treat ourselves with the same understanding and patience that we would offer a dear friend, we unlock the ability to genuinely care for others. Kindness also requires a shift in perspective. It asks us to see the world through the eyes of others, to acknowledge their suffering and their joy as part of our shared humanity. When we practice empathy, we connect with others not just through words, but through the very essence of our being. We recognize that every person we meet is carrying their own burdens, and that a simple act of kindness, a smile, a kind word, or a moment of patience, can be a powerful antidote to the pain they may be experiencing. But kindness isn't just about grand gestures or acts of charity. It's about the small, everyday actions that make up our lives. The way we speak to others, the way we listen, the way we treat the people who may seem invisible to us. These are all opportunities to practice kindness. The Buddha taught us to see all beings as interconnected, to understand that the well-being of others is inextricably linked to our own. By nurturing kindness in our interactions, we not only bring joy to others, but we also cultivate a deep sense of peace within ourselves. Of course, practicing kindness isn't always easy. There will be times when we feel frustrated, angry, or misunderstood. In these moments, we may feel tempted to act out of hurt or defensiveness. But kindness is not a response to what others give us, it is a conscious choice. A way of being in the world that transcends our temporary emotions. Think about a time when you responded with kindness, even when it was difficult. Maybe it was a moment when you chose to be patient with someone who tested your limits, or when you offered a kind word to someone who was struggling. In those moments, you may have felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that you had chosen peace over conflict. This is the power of kindness. It doesn't just change others, it changes us. The Buddha also taught that kindness is an offering. When we practice kindness, we are giving something precious to the world, not money or material things, but our presence, our compassion, and our care. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, is a way of contributing to the collective well-being of all beings. One powerful way to practice kindness is to simply be present for others. In a world that often values productivity over connection, being truly present for someone can be one of the most valuable gifts we can give. When we listen deeply, without judgment, when we offer our time and attention to others, we are offering them a moment of peace, a moment of human connection that can be transformative. Kindness also involves forgiveness. It asks us to let go of the grudges and resentments that weigh us down and prevent us from experiencing true peace. Forgiveness is not always easy, but it is essential for our own well-being. When we hold on to anger or bitterness, we are only harming ourselves. But when we choose to forgive, we free ourselves from the chains of resentment and create space for kindness to blossom. As we move forward on the path to inner peace, let us remember that kindness is not just an action, it is a way of life. It is a lens through which we view the world, and it is a practice that we must cultivate every day. The more we practice kindness, the more we begin to see its profound impact on our relationships, on our communities, and on our own hearts. Let's take a moment now to reflect. How can you bring more kindness into your daily life? Can you practice being kinder to yourself? Can you reach out to someone who may be struggling and offer a moment of care? Every small act of kindness counts, and it has the power to change the world, one person at a time. Part 4. Embracing the present moment. Take a deep breath with me. Close your eyes for just a moment and feel the air as it fills your lungs. Notice how your body feels right now, your heartbeat, the weight of your body against the ground, the sounds around you. What do you notice in this exact moment? Are you fully present here? Or is your mind already drifting to the past or the future? In Buddhism, we are often reminded that the present moment is the only moment we truly have. Everything else, the past, the future, is an illusion. The Buddha taught us to cultivate mindfulness, to be fully aware of each moment as it unfolds. For it is in this moment that life is happening. As he once said, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. How often do we find ourselves lost in the past, replaying old conversations, regretting missed opportunities, or clinging to memories of what once was? And how often do we look to the future with anxiety or anticipation, wondering what will come next or hoping for something better than what we have right now? The past and the future are important, of course, but they only exist in our minds. They are stories we tell ourselves. The past can't be changed, and the future hasn't arrived yet. The only thing we truly control, the only thing we can truly experience, is the present. And yet, how often do we overlook it? To live in the present moment is to be awake, to be fully conscious of the life that is happening around us and within us. It's about engaging with the world as it is, without judgment, without attachment, and without distraction. This doesn't mean ignoring the future or denying the past, but rather understanding that they do not define our happiness. The present moment is where we find peace, and it is where we find the space to truly connect with ourselves and others. One of the most profound practices in Buddhism is vipassana meditation, or insight meditation. This practice invites us to observe our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without attachment, simply noticing them as they arise and pass away. Through this practice, we begin to see that all things, both pleasant and unpleasant, are temporary. They come and go, just like the waves in the ocean. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to detach from our thoughts and emotions, recognizing that they are not who we are. Imagine being able to approach each moment with the clarity of mind that comes from truly being present. When we're fully in the moment, we no longer feel rushed or anxious about what's coming next. We stop chasing after external validations and begin to savor the simplicity of being alive. We notice the beauty in the small things, the feel of the sun on our skin, the laughter of a loved one, the taste of our food. These small moments are what make up our lives. Yet we often rush past them, caught up in the worries of the future or the regrets of the past. Living in the present also means accepting the impermanence of all things. Nothing in this world is permanent, not even the present moment itself. This understanding can bring both peace and freedom. We no longer need to hold on to things, to people, or to outcomes. We can embrace the moment as it is, knowing that it will pass, just like everything else. In practicing mindfulness, we come to see that the present moment holds everything we need. It is in the here and now that we can find peace, joy, and clarity. When we stop trying to control the future or fix the past, we free ourselves to experience life as it truly is, without the weight of expectations or regrets. But embracing the present moment requires effort. It requires us to step away from our distractions, to silence the constant noise of our thoughts and the pull of the outside world. It requires us to practice patience and self-awareness. It means allowing ourselves to be fully engaged in whatever we are doing. Whether it's a simple task like washing the dishes or a meaningful conversation with a friend. Think about a time when you've been completely absorbed in an activity, when you lost track of time because you were so focused. This is what it means to be present. When we embrace the present, we experience life more vividly, more fully, and in doing so, we begin to experience a deep sense of peace. For in the present moment, there is no past to regret, no future to fear. There is only what is. So, the next time you find your mind wandering, when you feel the weight of the past or the anxiety of the future creeping in, take a deep breath and gently bring yourself back to the present. Notice the sounds around you, the sensations in your body, the thoughts that come and go. This moment is enough. It is all we truly have. And as you go through your day, try to approach each moment with mindfulness. Whether you are talking with a friend, enjoying a meal, or walking outside, take a few moments to truly experience what's happening around you. Be fully present with the people in your life. Feel the sensations of each action you take. In these moments, you may find that life becomes richer, deeper, and more fulfilling than you ever imagined. Remember, the Buddha taught us that the present moment is the gateway to peace. If we can learn to embrace it fully, we unlock the true potential of our lives. Part 5. Cultivating Gratitude. Imagine waking up tomorrow with only the things you've been grateful for today. What would be left in your life? What would you miss most? Gratitude is not just an emotion, but a practice, a way of living that transforms our outlook on life. In Buddhism, cultivating gratitude is seen as one of the most powerful ways to enrich our lives and deepen our spiritual practice. In many ways, gratitude is a choice. It's a choice to look at the world through a lens of appreciation rather than entitlement. To see what we have as enough, rather than focusing on what we lack. This shift in perception doesn't come easily, especially in a world that often pushes us to want more, do more, and achieve more. But the Buddha taught us that true happiness doesn't come from external things, it comes from within. From the way we choose to relate to the world around us. In the teachings of Buddhism, we are encouraged to express gratitude not just for the obvious blessings in our lives, but also for the challenges and hardships. Why? Because every experience we face, whether it's one of joy or sorrow, is an opportunity for growth. Every challenge is a lesson that can help us deepen our understanding of the impermanent nature of life and the interconnectedness of all beings. Take a moment to reflect on your life. Can you think of something in your life that you once considered a difficulty but, looking back, you now see as a teacher? Perhaps it was a personal loss, a moment of failure, or a painful experience. In time, these events may have led you to greater wisdom, compassion, or resilience. In this way, even our struggles are worthy of gratitude because they shape us into who we are meant to become. The Buddha also teaches that gratitude is a way to cultivate contentment. When we are constantly chasing after what we don't have, we are never truly at peace. We may achieve success, but we find that it doesn't bring lasting happiness. We may acquire possessions, but they can never fill the emptiness inside. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we don't have to what we do have, helping us to realize that we are already blessed in many ways. In Buddhist practice, we often begin and end each day by reflecting on our gratitude. This simple act of reflection can transform our minds. When we wake up in the morning, we can take a moment to express gratitude for the gift of life, for the breath that fills our lungs, for the opportunity to start fresh. At the end of the day, we can give thanks for the lessons learned, the relationships nurtured, and the beauty we've experienced, no matter how small it may seem. Gratitude, like any other practice, requires cultivation. It doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, it becomes a natural part of our daily lives. One way to begin is by starting a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. They don't need to be grand gestures. In fact, it's often the simplest things that bring the greatest joy. Maybe it's the sound of birds singing outside your window, the warmth of a cup of tea, or the kindness of a stranger. As you begin to focus on what you are grateful for, you may notice that your mind starts to shift. You start to see the good in people, in situations, and in yourself. And when you focus on the good grows. This is the power of gratitude. It shapes our experience of the world. The Buddha often spoke of the interconnectedness of all things. Everything we have, everything we experience, is the result of countless causes and conditions. We are the beneficiaries of the love and labor of others. And so, in turn, it is important that we express our gratitude. This is not just for our benefit, but for the benefit of all beings. Gratitude nurtures our hearts, and when our hearts are filled with appreciation, we are more likely to act with kindness, generosity, and compassion. Consider how gratitude can change the way you interact with others. When we approach others with a heart full of gratitude, we treat them with more respect, more care, and more understanding. We become more patient, more forgiving, and more willing to listen. Gratitude makes us more present, more connected, and more compassionate in our relationships. It opens our hearts to others and invites love and kindness to flow more freely. Buddhism teaches us that the more we cultivate gratitude, the more we move toward enlightenment. Why? Because gratitude brings us into alignment with the present moment. It shifts our awareness from what we lack to what we have, from our desires to our contentment. In this way, gratitude becomes a path to peace, a bridge between our restless minds and the stillness of our hearts. As you go about your day, pause for a moment and think about all that you have to be grateful for. Don't wait for something extraordinary to happen. Begin now, with the small things that are already present in your life. Gratitude is not reserved for special occasions or monumental moments. It is found in the everyday miracles of life, in the simple fact that we are alive, that we are breathing, that we have this moment. When you cultivate a grateful heart, life becomes a celebration. Every experience becomes an opportunity for thankfulness, and you begin to see the beauty in everything around you. The more you practice gratitude, the more you will find that your heart grows, your mind becomes clearer, and your life becomes richer in ways you never thought possible. So, let's take a moment together, right now, to offer a prayer of gratitude. Thank you for the gift of this moment, for the breath that fills our lungs, for the love and support of those around us, and for the lessons we have learned. May we carry this gratitude in our hearts, not just today, but every day, as we continue on our journey toward peace and enlightenment. Part 6. Silencing negative thoughts. Take a deep breath for a moment, and listen. What are the voices in your mind saying right now? Are they voices of self-doubt, fear, or criticism? Are they telling you that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy of happiness, or that life is too difficult? These negative thoughts can be powerful, and they can shape the way we experience the world. But here's the truth: you do not have to listen to them. The Buddha teaches us that our minds are like a garden. If we allow weeds to grow, they will take over and crowd out the beautiful flowers and plants we've worked so hard to cultivate. Likewise, if we let negative thoughts control us, they will overshadow the positivity, peace, and joy that are naturally present in our lives. But the good news is, we can choose to silence these negative thoughts. We can choose to cultivate a mind that is calm, clear, and focused on what is true, kind, and beautiful. The Buddha's teachings on the mind are profound. He recognized that the mind is the source of both our happiness and our suffering. Negative thoughts, such as anger, fear, and self-criticism, can cause immense pain. They are like clouds that block the sun, obscuring our inner light. But when we learn to silence them, we allow the sunshine of peace and wisdom to shine through. So, how do we begin to silence these negative thoughts? The first step is awareness. We must be mindful of what's happening in our minds. Often, negative thoughts come without us even realizing it. They slip in quietly, like shadows, until they fill our entire mental space. But if we can develop mindfulness, we can recognize these thoughts as they arise. We can observe them without judgment, without attachment. The Buddha taught us the practice of right mindfulness, the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions without being overwhelmed by them. When a negative thought arises, we can simply acknowledge it. Oh, here is the thought that I am not good enough. We might say to ourselves, I see you, but I am not you. This practice of mindfulness allows us to create space between ourselves and our thoughts. It reminds us that we are not our thoughts, we are the observer of them. We have the power to choose how we respond. Once we become aware of negative thoughts, the next step is to replace them with positive ones. It's not enough to simply push negative thoughts away. We must actively replace them with thoughts that uplift us, that inspire us, and that bring us peace. The Buddha taught us that the mind is like a wild horse. It can be unruly. But with practice, we can train it. We can choose thoughts that bring us closer to our true nature of compassion, wisdom, and joy. One of the most effective ways to silence negative thoughts is through loving-kindness meditation. This practice involves sending love and compassion to ourselves and others. It begins with us, as we cultivate a deep sense of self-love and acceptance. When we send love to ourselves, we begin to silence the inner critic that tells us we are not enough. We replace those critical thoughts with affirmations of our inherent worth. You can practice loving kindness by repeating these phrases. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. As you say these words, allow them to sink into your heart. Feel the warmth of these words filling your being. Then, expand this loving kindness outward to others, to your family, friends, and even those who challenge you. With time, you will find that your mind becomes more peaceful, more focused, and more filled with love. Another powerful method for silencing negative thoughts is through the practice of meditation. Meditation allows us to quiet the mind and gain control over our thoughts. Through focused attention on the breath, a mantra, or an object of concentration, we learn to let go of distractions and return to the present moment. As we meditate, we create a space where negative thoughts cannot easily take root. The more we meditate, the more we learn to silence the inner chatter that keeps us from experiencing peace. In addition to meditation and loving kindness, we can also turn to the practice of right speech, speaking with honesty, kindness, and compassion. Our words are a reflection of our thoughts, and when we speak with mindfulness, we can help silence the negative thoughts that may arise in our minds. By practicing right speech, we create an environment of positivity and encouragement, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. As you continue to practice silencing negative thoughts, remember that it's not about perfection. Negative thoughts will still arise, that's part of being human. But with time and practice, you'll find that you don't have to believe everything you think. You don't have to let your thoughts define you. Instead, you can choose to observe them, to let them pass by, and to return to the present moment. In Buddhism, we learn that everything is impermanent. Thoughts, feelings, and experiences are constantly changing. When negative thoughts arise, remember that they are not permanent. They will pass, just as clouds pass through the sky, and in the space between the clouds, the sun of peace and wisdom always shines. So, the next time you hear a negative thought in your mind, pause, take a deep breath and say to yourself, I do not need to follow you. In that moment, you can choose peace, you can choose calm, and you can choose to silence the negativity that holds you back from experiencing the true joy of life. Part 7. Accepting Impermanence. Imagine a beautiful sunrise, the sky painted with shades of orange, pink, and purple. It's a breathtaking sight, but as the sun rises higher, the colors begin to fade. The moment is gone, replaced by the brightness of day. In that fleeting moment, we experience something truly precious. But it doesn't last, and that's the nature of life. Everything is impermanent. The Buddha spoke of impermanence, or anicca, as one of the fundamental truths of existence. He taught us that nothing in this world is permanent. Everything changes, evolves, and eventually fades. From the seasons that shift with each passing year to the moments of joy and sorrow that come and go in our lives, everything is in constant flux. Why is it so important to accept impermanence? Because, in truth, our suffering often comes from our attachment to things that are temporary. We hold on tightly to relationships, possessions, or even feelings, believing that they will last forever. But when change inevitably comes, we are left feeling disappointed, frustrated, or even heartbroken. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us that our attachments to these fleeting things only lead to suffering. When we cling to things, we are resisting the very nature of life. But accepting impermanence brings freedom. It allows us to let go of the need to control life, to accept the ebb and flow of experiences, and to embrace the beauty of the present moment. When we stop clinging to what is temporary, we can experience peace in the knowledge that everything, both good and bad, will eventually pass. To truly understand impermanence, we must first recognize the impermanence of our own thoughts and emotions. Think about a moment when you were angry or sad. Maybe you felt like those emotions would never end. But, over time, they faded, the intensity lessened. This is the nature of our emotions. They come, they stay for a while, and then they go. When we realize this, we stop holding on to them. We stop identifying with them. And in that freedom, we find peace. But impermanence is not just about letting go of our attachments to negative emotions. It's also about embracing the beautiful moments in life without trying to hold on to them forever. When we experience happiness, we often try to capture it, to hold on to it as long as possible. But the Buddha teaches us that even our happiest moments are impermanent. They, too, will pass. This realization helps us appreciate the present moment without clinging to it. We can love and cherish the good moments, knowing that they are gifts, and we can let them go when the time comes. One of the most profound ways to practice accepting impermanence is through meditation. In meditation, we observe the ebb and flow of our thoughts and sensations without trying to control them. We sit with whatever arises, whether it's pain, pleasure, joy, or sadness, and we simply allow it to be. This practice of observing impermanence in real time helps us cultivate a deep understanding of life's transitory nature. And as we become more comfortable with impermanence, we begin to develop a sense of ease, knowing that nothing lasts forever, neither the good nor the bad. In addition to meditation, we can also practice mindfulness in our daily lives. When we experience a difficult moment, whether it's a challenging conversation, a stressful situation, or a moment of loss, we can remind ourselves, this too shall pass. In those moments, we remember that everything is temporary, and instead of fighting against the change, we accept it with grace. We let go of the need to control the outcome and trust that, just like the changing of the seasons, life will unfold as it is meant to. Another way to embrace impermanence is through the Buddhist practice of letting go. Letting go is not about giving up, it's about releasing our attachment to the way we think things should be. When we let go, we create space for new possibilities to emerge. We allow ourselves to flow with life's changes instead of resisting them. It's important to remember that accepting impermanence is not a sad or depressing realization. In fact, it's a powerful tool for living a more fulfilling life. When we understand that everything is temporary, we become more present. We cherish the good moments even more, knowing that they are fleeting. And when we face difficulties, we find comfort in knowing that they, too, will eventually pass. This understanding gives us the freedom to experience life more fully, without the weight of attachment and fear. The Buddha's teachings on impermanence also remind us of the importance of compassion. When we accept that all beings are subject to impermanence, we can feel greater empathy for the struggles and suffering of others. We understand that they, too, are going through the inevitable changes of life, and with this understanding, we can offer love, kindness, and support to those around us, knowing that their challenges are not permanent either. Impermanence is a reminder that life is precious. It urges us to live with intention, to make the most of each moment, and to not take anything for granted. Every moment, every breath, is an opportunity to practice peace, kindness, and gratitude. And by embracing the impermanence of life, we open ourselves to the endless possibilities that lie ahead. So, as you go about your day, take a moment to reflect on the impermanence of all things. Notice the beauty in the fleeting moments. Let go of the need to control, and in doing so, you will find peace, knowing that everything is as it should be. As we come to the end of our journey through these Buddhist principles for cultivating inner peace, I invite you to pause and reflect on the wisdom we've shared today. These teachings are not mere ideas to contemplate, but profound truths that, when practiced, can transform the way we live, think, and experience the world. We've spoken of letting go of control, detaching from desires, and embracing kindness and gratitude. We've learned the importance of living in the present moment and silencing the negative thoughts that plague our minds. And, perhaps most profoundly, we've explored the concept of impermanence, the understanding that nothing lasts forever. And by accepting this, we can find freedom and peace in the flow of life. These principles are not just teachings to memorize but practices to embody in every breath, every thought, and every action. The Buddha's path to inner peace is one that encourages us to live with intention, to be mindful, and to cultivate compassion for ourselves and others. As you leave this space, remember that the journey to peace is a continuous one. It's a journey that does not have a final destination but rather unfolds with each passing moment. With each moment you let go of control. With each moment you choose kindness over anger. With each moment you practice gratitude. You are building a life of deep, abiding peace. The challenge lies not in the learning, but in the application. It is easy to hear these teachings and think, "This is wonderful. I will try to practice it." But true transformation happens when we begin to integrate these principles into our daily lives. Each moment offers us a chance to practice letting go of our need for control. Each interaction presents an opportunity to practice kindness and compassion. Every situation is an invitation to embrace the present and be grateful for what is. I encourage you to take these teachings and experiment with them. Try them out in your life. Observe the changes that come when you let go of your attachments, when you stop seeking control, and when you cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude and presence. You might not see immediate results, but rest assured, the process of transformation has already begun. And when challenges arise, because they inevitably will, remember the wisdom of impermanence. When life presents difficulties, don't resist. Accept them as part of the flow of life. Know that the pain will pass, the challenge will dissolve, and you will emerge stronger, more peaceful, and more aligned with your true self. Inner peace is not something we acquire, it is something we uncover. It is already within us, waiting to be revealed through our practice. And the more we let go of the distractions, the attachments, and the illusions of permanence, the more we come to realize that peace is not something to find, but something to be. So, as we close today's reflection, I leave you with one final thought, inspired by the Buddha's own words. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Take this wisdom with you. Carry it in your heart, and may it guide you on your path toward a life of serenity, balance, and inner peace. This concludes our reflection on the 7 Buddhist principles for a calm and peaceful life. I invite you to revisit these teachings as often as you need, knowing that each time you do, you are walking one step closer to the peace that already resides within you. Thank you for joining me today.